Alright.
Do you mind?
Sorry?
We're talking. Do you mind?
Yeah, I wondered if you could have a statement on...
Can you go? We're talking in the middle of stuff, and you're not invited to have this conversation. This is this is a private conversation.
It's a private conversation in a public place.
Keep moving.
Sorry?
Keep moving. That way.
Are you Mr. Salisbury?
Just keep going. Honestly, keep moving. And I have no problem with my hand in front of your thing. I have no problem with it. Just keep moving.
Okay, well, I just wondered, so that's your statement, keep moving?
No, keep going. I'm going back to the office, so.
Actually, hand me your identification, please.
Here it is.
No, hand me your identification.
I don't hand it out, I'm sorry.
Hand me your identification.
I don't hand it out, I'm sorry. You can look at it.
Who are you?
I'm David.
David who?
Langer. Okay? David Langer, 2 row times. All right, and who are you?
Able to make a comment at all about what's going on here?
No.
No?
Should be out here shortly, though.
Who is that?
There's a big meeting at the house down the street.
Oh, okay.
Probably 40,
So that's
50 people in there.
in the, so everybody's actually meeting in there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so maybe I should
They
go
don't
down
want
there.
the press there.
Sorry?
They've asked the press not to come.
The Mohawk workers are trying to do something here, so that's going to benefit the people. And I quite can't agree with it, and I won't agree with it. And I hate to use the word I, but I'm only speaking for myself today. The rest of the bench is here, the Mohawk bench. But I think they're echoing the same thing, is that if we're going to go ahead with this development, we're going to do this such a great deal, then why wasn't the people back home asked to come and participate and to see if it's a good deal? You know, I look at recognizing the underlying title. I look at looking at a lease arrangement. Then for the future and the present, there's equity there for those people. That's what we got to be mindful of. Today I didn't hear that. The willingness to shut the project down, they don't want to do it. Shows me that they're unwilling to work with us, our own people. So we have no choice. We have to go over there again.
So are the underlying title is not being addressed?
That's right. That's right. And it needs to. It needs to be to be addressed. You know, I don't know what HDI or anybody else is saying in this matter, but I hope they're recognizing that.
What is, in your view, what does the development propose then if it's not addressing it?
Well, in reality, we're not getting nothing. We're getting 12.5 acres over here, but we already own the other 27 and 39 over there, right? So if you want to deal with it, you want to do it, then let's do it in a good way. Let's do it. It's gonna benefit our people, because you know what? Right now, the only people that's going to benefit are the guys who are developing it.
They own the title.
Yeah.
And they're.
Mm-hmm. So, right, Chase? Am I right in saying that? How is it going to impact us? And it's not, right? But if we would do it our way, we suggested to them, it would be a good thing for our people. Are you willing to go down that road? I don't think they are. Like I said, you need to create the ultimate agreement where it becomes foolproof, where nobody can penetrate that agreement, so that it works and benefits all people, not just the developer. That's how I think.
What was your proposal to them?
Just what I said to you. Yeah, let's go into a lease arrangement. But I said first we have to go home and we have to consult with our community on these matters. Once we get the approval from the community, then we can say, and I know dang well back home the people are going to say, let's go into a lease arrangement with them. Whether they choose to or not, it's up to them. But that's only what I can put across the floor, is that let's go into a lease arrangement, let's lease the land if you want to develop it. We talk about our people here now and the ones that are still to come. There has to be something there for them. That's all. It's real simple, but you know, it's developers and some people who think they're greedy, they make it tough for everybody else, you know.
There was a meeting at the Mohawk workers at Canada. Were you present at that meeting?
The very first one, and we suggested the same thing then, and we're still carrying the same message. You know, let's sit down, let's talk. But not just with us and the Mohawk workers. Let's sit down with the community. Let's get their input. Because you know what? at the end of the day, we all have a say in our land. That's why it's called communal lands. You know, they're saying, well, right now it's in fee simple. Sure that is, but it's still in the land claims. Fee simple don't mean nothing, but when you take that land right now and you give it back over to the developer and he turns it into fee simple when registered with the province, Canadian jurisdiction will apply to those lands, never to come back to the Ginnegahawga people or the ones back home.
So what you're saying is there's going to be a conversion of the land, in a sense, in their opinion.
So what do? Now we got development going on. They want to put infrastructure into the lands. And all we're saying, if you're meaningful, shut everything down, let's go home, get on the radio, put it in them, talk to the media, let's get this matter resolved. Take it to the people. That's all. See, if you look at it and you look at the past, whether you're Confederacy, Band Council, or HDI, where's the duty to consult with your people? There is none. That's why we're in this mess. You know, the great law, put it in place. Why don't we just try and follow it for a change and see where it takes us? You know, we're so quick to jump to develop, man. But anyway.
A year ago, a foreign national company bought the rights to this land, worked with the city, and they got an injunction on it. It was only through the protests that they didn't develop it. The injunction still stands on the thing, but since then, Steve Charest and his company, Guswhenta, bought the rights to the land. Since they bought the rights to the land, they came to us and asked us how we could proceed to develop that land. And
who are you, though, for the game?
Bill Squire, Mohawk, Wolf Clan, the Mohawk workers, and activists, I guess, just somebody who's concerned about and can see that we've lost just about everything that we had a right to, especially around Brantford here in this particular land. I explained it to the men's fire a while ago that the Mohawk workers have real direct connection with the ancestors that moved here in 1784 with Joseph Brant. We lived here, our particular family, we figure we spent about 86 years on this property, was moved off this property and had to go down to the reserve just for our own protection. But the bottom line is the underlying title, we've never extinguished the underlying title. It still remains the same as it did when we first got here, before there was even a province of Upper Canada. Before there was a government of Upper Canada, we was here. Now, at no time through history, anybody can show us where we hand us our rights for this land over to the Six Nations or the Canadian government. So that's what this move is about, is retaining our rights to some sort of land. And to face our own people and have our own people trying to deny us that right is very, very difficult to understand. So it's difficult for us to understand, but as we talked here today, I could see too that they don't understand what we're doing. And for that, I say I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I'm not being intimidated by them by no way, but if peace can be achieved by a little bit of time and conversation, I think that's what I'm looking at to try to do to resolve this. If they want to get together immediately, even tomorrow, we can go there and explain to them some of the proceedings that we've did up to this point. And that seems to be their biggest obstacle, is they don't know what's going on. And now, I don't know what they meant by that, but personally what I can see going on with HDI and the Confederacy and the Band Council, nothing has changed in the last 200 years. They're continually making deals for land, getting settlements on land, and not protecting or trying to retain the underlying title of land. So we're systematically losing to a point where the Mohawk Nation is landless and voiceless at this time. And we're trying to change that. We got a chance to try to change that, and that's what this deal is about here.
What is the contention that the under the title that you were talking about, the underlying title, is being basically converted by the purchase of the land by a developer? Is that something that you can address?
I'm not understanding you when you say.
And I don't understand either completely. So I'm just saying that I'm wondering if there's a feeling that the land being purchased by a developer, it's now going to be looked at as more formally a part of the Ontario title system.
Well, I guess I probably can address that too, because right now it is under the Ontario land system, the land registry, Ontario Municipal Board. They issued land patents to the city of Brantford, the municipality, and Brant County. So this land, as we speak right now, is under fee simple, which means under Canadian legislation and under their tax base. Okay. Now, how did it get there, and who did it? That's the big question. And I'm saying it's a Six Nations Confederacy that allowed them to put it there in the first place. It wasn't from the Mohawks, and that's why we're here, because the Mohawks have a clear vision of history all the way back to when Joseph Brant got here. And when we got here, this land was vested in the Mohawks for the Mohawks' enjoyment and others of the Six Nations. But it was primarily given to the Mohawks because of our land loss in the American states, the American Revolution, and our alliance with England. So they give us this land, and it was supposed to be comparable to acreage that we lost in the American states, and under the same conditions that we owned it prior to the Revolution, which we owned it before the coming of the white people. And we as Mohawk workers view that that's still how we own it. We never relinquished that. And who sold and surrendered land over the years was the Six Nations Confederacy. Now I read a court document just recently, and in there it just talked about Six Nation land rights. Well, the court is saying that Six Nations don't have any land rights here. Does Six Nations have treaties with Canada? No, they don't. Do we have treaties with Canada? No, we don't, but the Haldimand is made with Great Britain. And under the British North American Act, Britain being successors of Canada's interests, or Canada being inherits all British interests prior to 1867, before the British North American Act, they automatically, under international law, inherit all treaty obligations and all financial obligations before Confederation. That's under international law. That's the Haldimand. It fits into that mold. So how can Canada get out of it? Create another entity and a title for Haldimand lands. And they did that with a thing called a Simcoe Patent, which was supposed to be registered in, I think it was 1793, I think it was, yeah. So they created the Simcoe Patent, and who was allowed to be signature to dispose of Haldimand lands is Six Nations Confederacy, Six Nations chiefs, warriors of the Confederacy. Now, I've talked to my grandfather on this in great detail. I said, is there anything in point in history where the Mohawks signed over their rights to the Confederacy so they could dispose of our lands? And he said, no, it's never been done. So it's the Canadian government that's recognizing Six Nations as signatories to sign Mohawk land away to a point where we're landless and voiceless. And we're here now today standing up and say, hey, that's enough of this. We're going to try and do something. So opportunity like this comes along to bring it to the forefront, and that's what we're going to do, and we're going to continue to do it. So what happened to here today, you know, is you know, to avoid violence and everything, and particularly on my own behalf, I say, you know, if I can put it over for a day or week or something, I don't have no problem with that. If it takes a little bit of talking to try and straighten the men's fire out, I'm willing to do that. You know, I don't want to see us fighting against each other.
What was their objection, in your opinion?
One of my main objectives was, as I heard Bill Monture speaking there, is who are the Mohawk? The Mohawk basically are not even members of the Great League of Peace, according to him. And that's when I interjected, and I said, I beg to differ. I says, the families that have worked with the Mohawk workers are direct descendants of Joseph Brant and everybody that moved and had houses up here at one time. I said, so we do have an interest in this particular land. We have a connection with this particular land. So that must give us some rights to speak out. So we don't need nobody else's permission. When we see it disappearing on a continually basis, we do have not only a right, but a duty to try to protect it. And that's what we're doing.
And how exactly is the development there giving you more of a voice, would give you potentially more of a voice?
Okay, I explained to you later that a year ago this land, there was an injunction on this land and an outside developer owned it. Eh? Okay, as we look around the city, what's taking on progress now, they could put a chain link fence around there and put gates there, and every Jane and John Doe can be jailed to walk through those gates, so they fortify it, and where it's illegal for us to protest or disrupt any work or anything. So we're really held back. And this is going on at the Brownsfield site up on Greenwich Street right now. Same thing. Take a walk around there. Try to get in the place. So that's what they can do. When Steve Charest and Guswhenta came and bought the land off of this multinational corporation that owned it before, kind of took it out of the city's hands. So they was good enough to come to us and say, well, what can we do to proceed forward on this? And I said, well, as far as the Mohawks are concerned, the underlying titles is the main issue. And they said, well, if the underlying titles are the main issue, there's certainly things we can do about it then. So that's what this deal that we've got is orchestrated on.
So how would his development company or whoever owns the land over there now, how would it guarantee that the Mohawks would have an interest in the land?
Well, with this 12 particular acres here right now, they've already basically willed that over to us. And as you know, under even Canadian law, possession is 9/10 of the law. So it gives us a stronger fight, a stronger and more time for us to put our views out there and present our documentation to prove that we are right. We've never relinquished title. And if anybody's got a claim to this land, we'd like to see where it comes from and what the conditions are. You know, there's got to be a link from Joseph Brant and the Mohawks when they moved here and lived here. How did we get pushed off the land? How did our rights get extinguished? You know, people need to show us documentation. And the only documentation they can show is where Six Nations sold it. Right? So what right, you know, if we did something like that, excuse me, today, if you went and sold something that wasn't yours knowingly, you could be charged with something, right? Well, it's the same principle that we're looking at here, and it's very unjust for us, people to be put in a position where desperation. And again, what I'd like to demonstrate too is 4 years ago, you guys took over the Kanata village down here. It was at a time when the Confederacy and the Band Council was given jurisdictional rights on paper back to the city of Brantford. A group of women went in there and said, hey, you know, you guys got no right doing that. This is our land. So they took the building over. And they're still there today. And it's the same principle as everything else, you know. I guess as long as we don't stick up for ourselves, things will just keep deteriorating to the point where we don't exist anymore.
Well, it's the Kanata village is a unique situation in terms of it's right. The jurisdictions that flow through there to the west, especially with the Reserve 40B, I think it is, that stretches all the way through the residential school.
A very unique spot, you know, and the fact that next door is the Mohawk Chapel. then on the other side of it, we got the residential schools. It speaks to a great era and not all good, but history, yeah? But the church really represents to us some kind of an alliance with England, some kind of deal that we've made to retain some sort of ownership to land, which is dearly important to us. So I'm glad that the church is still there, and I'm glad that these women took back over the Canada, because we feel at home there. It's part of us, you know, even if it is next to the sewer plant and the dump, you know, but it's still dear to us. It's our ancestors' bones are buried in there, so it's special for us.
It's also next to the Mohawk Lake, which is just north of it. So,
yeah.
But the point about the land being willed to you, is that a contract, or is that an understanding? Is that
you could call it whatever you want. It's both. It's both. Right now, what's happening? There's land that was willed to us on Gilkinson Street in West Brant. And on the parallel, there's land that's been willed to the band council up on West Street. They have trustees assigned to it, but it's their land and their will is completely under Canadian jurisdiction, because the band council is an extension of the federal government, right? Okay, now with the Mohawks, ours ties it back in with the Haldimand again. That's basically what we're trying to do here. And we actually took really close and reference off the deal, the will there that was made in Gilkinson Street. And for some reason, the city council here is putting a lot of pressure on the band council, because they're in arrears of $90,000 in back taxes, you know. And they're actually thinking about taking them to court and everything like this. And they, at first they was going to take the Mohawks there, but they laid off. They laid off because the underlying title, if it goes to court, the underlying title is going to have to be discussed. And if it's discussed and the Mohawk workers get involved and we produce the original Haldimand, well, what are they going to bring to the table? So I think that's some of the reason why they backed off. I don't know any other reason why they would, but so we're putting this land under basically the same principle as that.
Would you be able to tell me why the mayor of the city and Ted Salisbury were at the site today?
Because the Mohawk Nation really represents the city's integrity. Okay, they've never obtained any surrenders from the Mohawk Nation since Joseph Brant. They're in arrears of Joseph Brant land leases to a point, and this is registered also, to a sum of $663 billion right at the present time. Now, if they can pretend that Mohawks don't exist and only deal with the band council, whether it be the Confederacy or the band council, they don't have to deal with those issues. And Chris Friel down here, he's saying that he's communicating only with the Six Nations people. Like, he don't deal with the Mohawks. And this land deal that we're talking about here has potential, so he's going to have to deal with us. And that's what we like about it. So that's the city's, I would think, underlying view of the Mohawks. It's like they don't want to deal with us, and because you know, let's face it, 80% of Brantford's land holdings right now has never been settled. Okay, so that would represent at this time a lot of money for the man, and a lot of embarrassment as well. And we did some preliminary work on that, and invoiced the city. The Mohawk workers have invoiced the city for interest and compound interest on this. So if they can get forces that they can deal with from the reserve that doesn't have nothing to do with us, they're trying to do that. Just You know, it's the same mentality of the residential schools. And it's all custom designed to absolve us into the body politic of Canada to a point where they don't have to have no Indian problems again. You know, but that's been a long plan, but I don't think it's ever going to work. You know, there's people around who really feel offended what's happened, especially to the Mohawk people over the years here.
So was he there in support of the development, or he just happened to be driving by and got out and, in your opinion?
Oh, he knows full well what's going on. He knows full well what's going on. He's there to discredit the Mohawk in any way they can. And what this deal really represents is a new way to move forward on an equal partnership basis, which is kind of unheard of, especially in Brant County here. When I say equal partnership, you know, it's just like with Canada and the natural resources that's extracted from the land. Do we get a part of that? No, it's like we're invisible people. And not only that, but by extracting these natural resources, they're also polluting the land, which we have a responsibility to try to maintain some sort of balance with nature. And we're being systematically refused to have that chance to do that. And so when you look at the city of Brantford, and you look at this deal here that we're working with Guswhenta, it could and has the possibility just to be a template or a role, kind of a role model, say, for other nations all across the land to become real partnerships and establishing underlying title to something that's very dear to them, and that's their connection with the earth.
So in other words, it would be, you're saying that, in my understanding, it would be what the Haldimand had originally meant.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And why shouldn't it be? Why shouldn't it be, and why would they intentionally seem to recognize the Simcoe patent instead of the Haldimand, where that gives signatory rights to 6 nations? It's because they can get those guys to sign off on it, eh? And this is what this $63,000 invoice represents. No, we're still here. We never left. We never give up our rights to it. You know. But the sad part about that is we still gotta argue and fight against our own people. Yeah?
Is that what you think is a divide and conquer?
Oh, it definitely is, in every sense of the word. I remember following the reclamation there. A couple of people seen this, but I paid particular attention to it. Murray Traynor at the time was mayor for Haldimand County. When the early days of the reclamation there, when everything broke out, she took a trip to Ottawa. And her mother seen this on TV. When she got back here, she was interviewed by Channel 11 News. I even know the guy that did the story. He asked her 2 questions when she got back here, which was on TV. What did you learn? What kind of advice did you get when you went to Ottawa? And her words was that, she said 2 things. One thing, that it's not going to be over anytime soon, and the next advice was, don't deal with the Mohawks. Okay? Now, why would somebody get that kind of advice? You know, because the government of Canada recognized 6 nations from the Simcoe patent as early as 1828 to be signatories to dispose of Haldimand lands. Okay? So all the treaties and land surrenders from 1828, everything around the city and on the Haldimand track is done under the terms and conditions of the Simcoe, not the Haldimand. Okay? Because Mohawks are signatories to the Haldimand. So they've got a way to get around that. So, and this is what we see happen, and this is what our ancestors have told us and preached to us, that what's going on. So we look at this deal as a way that we can get, and one of the reasons you're here, one of the reasons I'm doing this, that we can get some attention put on our fight and what we're about. You got anything to add, Misty? So, you know, it's a hard struggle for us because we're a non-governmental organization. We're not a charitable organization. We can't get funding for anything, you know, or do we expect it? Okay, so it's a hard struggle for us, and families gotta, when we want something, families gotta dig in and round the money up ourselves, you know. It's a hard struggle for us. But this deal that we're trying to make with Guswhenta here and the land here on Birkett's Lane gave us a little bit of hope that we could change the status quo. And we're never ever going to give up on it. I don't care what happened here today. We fully intend to go through with it. We not only intend, we have an obligation to go through with it if it can bring enlightenment to other people, but actually what happened in history. You know, so when I read history books, and I was fascinated at the start, and I was really lucky to have a good chance of learning oral history from my grandfather, my father, and other old Mohawk workers. And the Mohawk workers have got a great history in themselves about sticking up for our rights. And when I started looking at history, start asking myself questions about the written history, I start finding out a lot of things aren't as they really seem, as they appear, you know? The fact that the Mohawks had a Mohawk village here surrounding the Mohawk church, right on Canada land, there was houses there. It's really hard to understand. You know, during the American Revolution, we left our home in the American States. We come down here. We lived in Brantford here. We moved in, built houses, got families settled in there. And along comes the city of Brantford and eases us out of there. 6 Nations is surrendering our lands. We had to move for our own safety. We had to move. Like I live on the west side of the reserve down there, and I live on the west side of the reserve for a good reason, because we're one of the last families that left this very spot we're standing on here. So, do you think it's fitting for me just to cave in and give up and say, let every bygones be bygones? No, it goes much deeper than that. Very much deeper than that. And I've dedicated the rest of my life trying to bring the real true history out. You know, and this true history, and I'm really glad that I've had a chance to deal with it. Certainly younger people to relate my story to, and it's going to go on. You know, it's going to go on. So I feel really passionate about the Mohawk workers and our role and our quest to maintain some sort of presence here in Brantford, a connection with the land somehow, and certainly some sort of justice would be nice along the way. Mm-hmm.